In less than 43 days, most of the important civilian infrastructures in Iraq received considerable destructions.
American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations.
According to estimates for this period, about 21,000 Iraqi civilians were killed. The invasion of Iraq by the United States of America and its allies in the Western world was a pivotal point that significantly influenced the density of the nation.
Are blocking positions on the northern side west of checkpoint 343. How copy?
Before the war, President George Washington Bush and other American officials spoke publicly appealing to the United Nations, claiming that Saddam Hussein possesses weapons of mass destruction. This was the start of what perhaps one of the most continuous and intricate undertakings involving the military.
I take the threat very seriously. I take the fact that he develops weapons of mass destruction.
What you will see is an accumulation of facts and disturbing patterns of behavior. The facts in Iraq's behavior demonstrate that Saddam Hussein and his regime have made no effort to disarm as required by the international community. Indeed, the facts and Iraq's behavior show that Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more.
US officials presented information to the world through news channels, which garnered significant attention and trust. On March 18, 2003, President Bush announced a 48-hour ultimatum for Saddam Hussein and his sons.
My fellow citizens, events in Iraq have now reached the final days of decision to disarm the Iraqi regime without war. Saddam Hussein and his sons must leave Iraq within 48 hours. Their refusal to do so will result in military conflict. We have sent hundreds of weapons inspectors to oversee the disarmament of Iraq. Our good faith has not been returned. In recent days, some governments in the Middle East have been doing their part. They have delivered public and private messages urging the dictator to leave Iraq so that disarmament can proceed peacefully. He has thus far refused.
Internationally, the announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some countries supported the US stance while others criticized it, questioning the legitimacy of the claims about WMDs and the connections to Al-Qaeda. The lead up to the invasion saw significant diplomatic efforts and debates within the United Nations, reflecting the global divide on the issue.
The December 5, 2003 speech to the United Nations Security Council was delivered by Colin Powell, at that time serving as the US Secretary of State. In this meeting, Powell pointed to a test tube and claimed it as UNRWA.
What you will see is an accumulation of facts and disturbing patterns of behavior. The facts in Iraq's behavior demonstrate that Saddam Hussein and his regime have made no effort to disarm as required by the international community. Indeed, the facts and Iraq's behavior show that Saddam Hussein and his regime are concealing their efforts to produce more weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein has chemical weapons. Saddam Hussein has used such weapons. And Saddam Hussein has no compunction about using them again against his neighbors and against his own people. And we have sources who tell us that he recently has authorized his field commanders to use them. He wouldn't be passing out the orders if he didn't have the weapons or the intent to use them. This body places itself in danger of irrelevance if it allows Iraq to continue to defy its will without responding effectively and immediately. The issue before us is not how much time we are willing to give the inspectors to be frustrated by Iraqi obstruction, but how much longer are we willing to put up with Iraq's noncompliance before we, as a council,
On March 20, 2003, the United States initiated the first phase of military operation.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
It was just over 90 minutes beyond President Bush's deadline for Saddam Hussein to leave Iraq that U.S. warships and planes, there were F-117 stealth bombers involved, launched the opening salvo of Operation Iraqi Freedom. The attack came in waves, cruise missiles followed by the F-117 stealth bombers with so-called bunker-busting bombs. Their target, a bunker believed to be sheltering what are called top leaders of the Iraqi regime. Now, this is what it looked and sounded like in Baghdad. It was this short, and this is what happened.
From the Red Sea, the U.S. Navy launched a significant airstrike. The aim of deploying numerous cruise missiles and anti-bunker missiles was to target strategically important locations, such as Iraqi air defense, military command posts, and ammunition stock bases. These targets included key generals and officers and sought to disrupt military communications. Following the airstrikes, U.S. and British ground troops crossed the Kuwaiti border into the southern Iraq.
How do you feel about the situation at hand?
I'm just ready to go. Let's go. Let's get this stuff done, over with.
Yeah.
Man, I feel real good,
No
man.
talk about it,
Man, you know, the boys will start running.
As you see, field artillery has gone wild also. They're going wild on Iraqi.
The initial advance encountered limited resistance due to earlier destruction of command posts and military communication networks. This distribution contributed to the gradual collapse of Iraqi military forces from inside. Without effective communication between tank, artillery, land troop, and air divisions, the Iraqi forces struggled to coordinate a defense or a counter-offensive. This situation highlighted the critical role of communication, logistics, air defense, and command posts in military strategy.
The destruction of hospitals, schools, and civil infrastructures has left many Iraqis nostalgic for the days of Saddam Hussein's rule. People believed the American dream. Iraqi people thought if US invaded Iraq, everything in Iraq changes. For instance, cities and buildings, they dreamed about democracy, high salary. That's why during US invasion to Iraq, there was little resistance from Iraqi civilians. Even to current days, Iraqi people misses Saddam's regime because great Saddam Hussein made from deserts and big cities, factories, gave free education and healthcare to Iraqi nation. After American democracy, Iraqi system was totally destroyed. Iraq faced several problems such as murdering, problems with pure water system, and civil savage. Even in current day, situation in Iraq is still horrible.